Hello everyone and welcome to the Silvavine podcast with your host Michelle Da Silva. A podcast that focuses on creating healing and awareness. In today's episode, Michelle speaks with Julie Cosgrove, a certified menopause coach. She shares her experience and insights on managing menopause symptoms. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Silvavine podcast with me as your host Michelle Da Silva. Today I've got the fantastic Julie who's with me today. Julie is a registered nurse and now a certified menopause coach. She supports women who are struggling to manage their symptoms with regards to menopause to help them feel better. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you very much, Michelle. It's lovely to be here. And just excuse me, I am starting with a cold if I sound a bit bunged up.
That's okay. If we need to pause at any point, we can pause. So I really wanted to do this episode because myself, I haven't reached menopause yet. And quite truthfully, I don't know anything with regards to symptoms, the changes to your body. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, because I'd love to hear your thoughts around this and your experience that you've had working with women who go through this stage of their lives. Because a lot of the time we grow up, we go through menstrual cycles, and then we have children, and then yet we still have to go through menopause. And it's something that I haven't thought about yet. So I'm really intrigued to hear what you have to say with regards to menopause. So in terms of what you do currently at the moment, what kind of got you into this?
It was sort of by accident. It wasn't something that was planned. I mean, I knew nothing about menopause. I thought it was hot flushes and no periods, and that was it. And even when I was in perimenopause, which I didn't realise existed, I didn't know what was going on. I started with hay fever. All of a sudden, couldn't understand why I got hay fever, and just sort of carried on. And it was my current main role is working within Occupational Health, doing absence management. So I was doing an assessment with an employee who was struggling in work. She was been referred for another condition, I can't remember what it was, and she just brought up that she was struggling with menopause symptoms. And I sort of went, oh right, okay, thinking, well, how bad can it be? It's just hot flushes and no periods. And she was talking and describing her symptoms, and I thought, well, while I was sat next to the computer, I'll Google it. So I Googled menopause symptoms, and this page came up and it said there's 34 symptoms. And I'm like, oh my God, there's 34 symptoms. I didn't realise there was that many. And she's going, oh God, neither did I. So I sort of gave her some general advice and finished off the assessment and thought, oh, I got out of that. That did manage that one quite well. And then a few weeks later, I had another lady, exactly the sort of same thing, menopause symptoms. So I said to her, oh, well, I've just spoken to someone not long ago about this, and there's 34 sort of symptoms. So again, gave her some general advice, and I thought, I think I need to find out a little bit more about this, because I'll have conditions come in runs. So I'll have nothing for months, and then you'll have a whole load of them within a short space of time. And then just by coincidence, our manager at the time emailed and said, there's a lady doing some menopause awareness sessions. They're free. I think they were half an hour each day over 3 days. Here's the link. So I thought, oh, well, I've had these two ladies. There's obviously more going to be coming through. So I thought I'll sign up for this. So I attended the sessions, and they were fantastic. And Lauren Chirin, who's from Women of a Certain Stage, she's always in the news. She's one of sort of the high-flying menopause people. She offers like 15-minute free calls. So I thought, oh, well, I'll have a call with her to see if there's any advice I can give these women that I'm coming across. So I phoned her up and said to her, explained what I did. And she said, well, what did you tell them? So I said, well, I tell them to go to their GP. She said, well, I wouldn't do that because they're not trained. And I'm like, oh, God. So I said, well, or I send them to the NHS website. She said, well, don't do that either. That's not been updated for 5 years. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm sending these women to places I would have thought would have been the best place to go, and they're getting the wrong advice, or they're not getting the support they need. So I was like, well, where can I get some training? How can I help them? And she said, oh, well, British Menopause Society do training. You could have a look there. Gave me a couple of other ideas. And she said, I'm also going to start doing some champion training in a couple of months if you're interested. And I'm like, yes, put me on it. Because it was during those initial 3 sessions that it suddenly, the light bulb went on in my head that the depression I'd had, the anxiety I'd had, the loss of confidence, the hay fever, the odd sort of joint pains, a bit of sleepless night, wasn't the pandemic. It was actually perimenopause. Like I say, I hadn't got a clue. I was in it, and I was partway through. So I did her champion training, and that was fantastic. Started doing a few awareness sessions on behalf of the company I work for, and she said, contacted me later and said, I'm going to do a coaching course. Are you interested? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll do that. Not a clue what a menopause coach was. Didn't really know what coaching was. I just wanted to learn more, just to be able to sort of help more women. So I started the coaching course September 22, and we finished nearly 12 months ago. So, and it was based around a signature plan that Lauren had developed herself about 8 years previously, looking at normal daily activities and how to improve them. It's basically trying to bring down your stress. If you bring down your cortisol levels, your symptoms improve. And it's all sort of around that. It's not doing anything really weird and wonderful. It's not having to run marathons and sleep on air mattresses and have seaweed baths 4 times a week and then stand on your head for 3 hours a day. It's just looking at normal daily activities. And yeah, so that's sort of how I sort of fell into it. Like I said, I didn't know there was a menopause coach, never heard of them. And now I know you can get coaches for everything.
Yes, indeed. I'm a life coach. So, so when you mention premenopause, so what does that actually mean?
Perimenopause is the stage after when your estrogen and your hormones start doing the changes. The estrogen starts to fluctuate, your progesterone and testosterone starts to decline. So that can happen at any age. It usually happens in your late 40s, but it can happen at any age. You can become perimenopausal from the time you've finished puberty. I did, for my Facebook group a few weeks ago, I did a Facebook Live with a young lady she thinks she was 13 when she went perimenopausal. So
right, so even me, I just said but it's perimenopause. Perimenopause, right?
Yeah, and that can last sort of between 2 to 10 years.
Wow.
And menopause is just one day. Menopause is the day that you've not had a period for 12 consecutive months, and then after that, you are postmenopausal. So perimenopause is usually when all the symptoms kick in. Although they can continue once you've gone through the menopause for until they sort of everything settles down.
Wow, see, I didn't know that at all, actually. You just, when you think of menopause, you think it's like that is the end, but now that you're explaining that, it's actually not.
No, it's just, perimenopause is like puberty. It's the other end of puberty. Hormones are erratic. A bit like puberty.
And you also mentioned, Julie, that there are officially 34 symptoms that a woman can get.
Yeah, there's 34 recognised symptoms, but they could be up to 200.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, they have, they cover psychological, cognitive and physical symptoms. So you can get the depression, the anxiety, the loss of confidence, brain fog, itchy skin, burning mouth, mucous membranes drying up, a loss of libido, loss of bone strength, muscle strength, itchy skin, hair loss, hay fever, bowel changes to the bowel. Apparently, frozen shoulder is they think that is a possible symptom as well.
Wow.
So yeah, there's lots of weird and wonderful ones, and no 2 women will have the same combination or the same severity. You'll have some people that will glide through their perimenopause not realising that anything's going on really, other than the periods might have stopped. Or you can have those that struggle to get through the day and are suicidal, or going through have psychosis. It's one extreme to the other.
Oh, wow. So let's talk a little bit about the extreme, or the extreme side, or the difficult side, because those women who are going through it, at what stage like you mentioned that, like, you were sending women to the GP and to the NHS, what sort of signs do women have to look out for to actually think, oh, actually, this is maybe got to do with my periods right now, and it's normal what I'm going through?
Yeah, changes in your cycle. I know when I spoke to Annabelle, the younger, I think she's in her 20s now. She said the one thing you should take note of is changes in your cycle. So when she went through it at 13, she was like, "Yeah, don't have them anymore." But being a teenager, I don't really care. It was only sort of later. So yeah, I mean, I had, I thought my cycle really changed. I went from being sort of quite regular to suddenly having a couple of months with nothing, and then I would have one period, it'd last a week, and then 2 weeks later I'd have another one.
Wow.
And they got longer, shorter intervals, much heavier. So any changes in your cycle. So if you think your cycle stopped, it's worth going and speak to the GP about it.
Okay. And then you mentioned that once you reach a 12-month period, what is the likelihood? I mean, is that kind of guaranteed? Like, after the 12 months, if you haven't had a period, could you still have, or is that like a good enough sign where it's finished?
12 months with no so it's 12 consecutive months. So not having a period for 12, that's classed as menopause. If you go through that 12 months and you're classed as postmenopausal, and you do have bleeding going forward, you do need to go to the GP and get it checked out, just to check there's nothing sinister going on.
Right. Okay. So just in terms of, like, I know, I'm not sure if you know about this, you don't have to answer it, like, in terms of like smear tests, do they like carry on at the age that you go through this, like most, like in your 50s? Do you know that at all?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I think they keep them going. Yeah.
So, and another thing that I wanted to speak about, which is probably really difficult for women who do go through this, is the loss of libido, and I'm sure that must also impact then the relationships then you have.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't feel like it, then I would imagine as women, you automatically feel bad, because then you don't want to do anything with your partner.
Yeah.
And then that can also, build difficulties within the relationship. And that must be tough for a lot of women that are going through that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of women, when they go perimenopausal, they don't realise, they will go to the GP and go, there's something wrong with me. I don't know what it is. There's something not right. And more often than not, the GP will try and give them antidepressants. It's not, their first thought is not, oh, you could be menopausal. It'll be, oh, you're depressed, here, have antidepressants. So, I mean, it can take up to 4 years to get effective support, because women don't know what's going on, and GPs are virtually the same. They don't really sort of click. So, when, losing libido and stuff like that, they might not know why they're like that. You can, going through a menopause specialist, you can get prescribed testosterone. That's currently not licensed in the UK for women, but they can give it for loss of libido.
Mm-hmm. And why is that not legal in the UK then?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. It's legal. It's just not currently licensed.
Right. Okay. Fine.
So
and has that helped women? Do you know, like in other countries?
Yeah, it can help, and it can help. I mean, testosterone looks after, as well as libido, it looks after muscle strength. It looks after bone health. It looks after cognition. It affects your cognition as well. So it's it just doesn't do one thing. So it can but you can't get it for brain, they can't officially give it you to prescribe it for brain fog. But if you go, I'm struggling with my libido, you can potentially get it that way.
And then just out of your experience, how much, like, with they say that when you know your menstrual cycles and stuff like that is quite similar to your mom, so that is genetic. So see how your mom went through her menopause. Is there a link there, do you think?
I don't know. I think some people say, yeah, my mum went through it early, I went through it early, and other people go, my mum went through it early, but I haven't gone through it yet. I don't know. I mean, there's not a huge amount of research been done on menopause. I don't know why. So, I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done. I mean, if you look at things like supplements and how to manage, the symptoms and stuff like that, a lot of the research is very ambiguous. It may help, but more work is needed. I think it's just been not really investigated and looked at until now. I think the next generation of women will be in a much better place than we are now.
And I think that's just the whole thing. I think us as women, we just we're a bit of soldiers that kind of soldier through a lot of things. And we just think like, oh, this is just happening to us, but we're so used to having the experience of either being a mum or got a lot going on, and you just kind of forget about yourself in the process and just think, oh, this is just another thing that I can cope with.
Yeah. I mean, I went to the Health and Wellbeing conference last year at the NEC, and they did a lot on women's health. During a lot of the talks were on women's health, and I think it's Dame Leslie Regan that oversees women's health in the UK. She's a gynecologist, and I think she's in her 60s now. And she said when she was trained as a younger doctor, she said we stopped seeing women at 50.
Wow.
I think they only came back when things dropped out. But things are now changing. I mean, we're one of the first sort of generations that are working later. A couple of generations ago, they got married and finished work. So we're working later, we're living longer. So it's sort of opening up these kind of worms, and women are more, would you say, vocal now? It's not, menopause is not hiding in the cupboards like it was before. It's not, oh, she's going through the change, and we don't talk about it. It is sort of being spoken about more, which is good.
Yeah.
Why should you wait until you go through it to find out what goes on? It shouldn't be a secret.
Exactly. And I do think there needs to be more understanding with regards to, it's a lot of the time, and this it's not the nicest. You often hear, even when a woman goes through a menstrual cycle, it's like, oh, it's that time of the month, and men actually put women just in this bracket, like, oh, they're just so horrible, they turn into this dragon and stuff like that. But actually, if you think about what a woman has to go through each time of the month, it's looked upon like, oh, she's just moody, oh, she's just going through that. But actually, we go through a lot at that time of the month. And we still have to work. We still have to go into work. We still have to do our day-to-day activities. We still have to be the mum, the wife, the daughter, whatever, and it is taxing on the body when you are going through, and some women are different to other women, and we still have to go on. So I do agree that it's great that we are talking about this more, and there needs to be more of this level of not respect, but acknowledgement that it is tough what women have to go through, and then still later have to go through this stage of menopause.
If it's not been bad enough for the last 30 years, let's just finish it off with this cherry on top of the cake.
I know, when does it stop, ladies? But I mean that's great. So you have people like you who is a coach that works with women to help. So what sort of work? So if I was a woman that was going through this, and I started really struggling to cope, I didn't know what was going on, and then I actually thought to myself, oh, actually, hang on a minute, maybe this has got to do with my menopause. What sort of things would you do with somebody?
Well, my programs, like I said, my programs are based on Lauren's signature plan, which she called the Menopause plan, which is her basic plan is a 7-week course. So I've made sort of 3 programs out of that. I've done an hour and a half session program, sort of looking at the top 3 symptoms that the woman may have and giving her some advice on making some changes and improvement to help her better manage her symptoms. That's for someone who is very not self-confident, what's the word?
Self-aware.
So not self-aware, but disciplined. So very self-disciplined. They don't need that accountability to encourage them to keep on the track. I've got the 7-week menopause plan, and then I've got a 6-month program as well that includes the 7-week menopause plan with a lot more contact, monthly updates, checking in. For someone who struggles with accountability, that needs that extra support sort of going forward, plus extra stuff in it. So the 7-week plan, we look at mindset, looking for the positives in life rather than, because when you're in that midst of depressed and anxious, you're not looking for things like that. So we look at mindset, we look at the, hydration. Are they drinking enough? I mean, if you're having hot sweats, you're losing your body's water. You're already losing your body's water through respiration, through sweating normally, through excretion as well. And then you add hot sweats on top of that, you're losing even more water. So if they're not drinking enough, that can affect the cognition. It can cause brain fog. It can cause slowdown in digestion. It can affect your circulation. It just affects everything. So losing 1% of your body's fluid is classed as dehydration. So just by increasing the amount of water can help them feel better, because their body, their digestion's working better. So they're absorbing more of the nutrients that they're eating. They've got enough, their blood pressure is good because they've got enough fluid in the body to keep their blood pressure up. Their brain's working and everything. We look at having routines. So going to bed, getting up. What's the routine? Have they got a good bed routine? Do they go at the same time every night, or is it one night I'm at 7 o'clock and the other night I'm at midnight, and then I get up? Trying to get them to have a good routine to help with sleep, because if your sleep's good, you feel better. We look at the diet. We encourage them to do 7 days and take out certain inflammatory foods, so anything like dairy, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, processed foods, red meat, and give the body time to rest, get rid of some of the inflammation that it's built up from eating the stuff that we eat sort of in this day and age, and then introducing them back in slowly and see what happens with the symptoms. Does eating bread make the hot sweats come back, or does it cause headaches and stuff like that? We look at exercise. Are they moving enough? Can they move a little bit more? We look at decluttering, because the decluttering the house, or your emails or friends, the people who aren't helping you, getting rid of those out of your life can help lessen your stress. And if your cortisol's down, your symptoms can improve and you generally feel better. And then reaching out and getting help. Are they setting some boundaries? Are they asking for help? And then the last week is basically celebrating what they've achieved and getting them to set a goal for going forward. And it's just sort of making little changes. Like I say, it's not making them run a marathon, in 7 weeks. They don't have to stand on the head. It's looking at what you're already doing and can you improve it a little bit more. And at the end of the day, they will take away what they need at the time. It may be that the only thing they take away from that 7 weeks is they're drinking more water, because that's the thing that's helped them. Or it may be that they take 3 things away, or nothing.
Yeah.
But, I've seen the ladies I've taken through have started off being really anxious, loss of confidence, just generally not themselves, and they've come out the other end and they're totally different. They've rediscovered themselves.
I think that's kind of like also the next question I was going to ask you. Like, obviously working with a coach like yourself will help make the transition more manageable, more smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Once a woman actually comes out and has gone through this whole process, do they go back to being themselves once they have stopped a period altogether?
Oh, you mean after menopause, once they've gone through
after menopause.
Yeah. Hopefully, eventually, once the hormones settle down, they will start to feel sort of more normal, if you will. It's because of the estrogen during perimenopause. The estrogen is like this. A bit like it in puberty. It's up and down and up and down. It's the extremes. And estrogen has got receptors all over the body, and it interacts with other hormones as well, which in turn gives you the symptoms. So once the estrogen's sort of lowered down and then sort of stabilized out, along with the progesterone and the testosterone, things will get better.
I mean,
it's not.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
There's no set time frame to say, once you've finished, once you have hit your menopause day, that in 6 months or 12 months, you will be back to where you were. It's different for everybody.
Right. Okay. And in terms of if you were the man who is going through this with your partner, what sort of advice would you give them?
Understanding, communication. If it's their partner that's noticed that something's not right, maybe bring it up. Support your partner, go to the GPs with them, do awareness training, attend awareness training at work, because menopause doesn't just affect the woman, it affects everybody. It'll affect the family, it'll affect the friends, it will affect their work colleagues. That ripple effect from the way they're not feeling well, it will affect everybody. So being aware, learning, understanding, and we accept that children, teenagers are horrible through puberty.
Yeah.
It's understanding that women are going through exactly the same thing at the other end of their life, and just sort of give them the space and the support that they need. And it's that communication. Divorces will increase during sort of women's late 40s, early 50s, because of the impact that the symptoms are having on the relationships, because they may not realise. And if you think about in a household, if you've got teenagers at the same time, you've got the teenagers going through puberty, mothers going through menopause, you've got a clash of hormones going, that will affect the family unit. So it's getting that understanding, and when you know what's going on, is stating to the family and saying, this is where I am, this is how I feel, and giving them that space, and that support and understanding. But I think being aware and attending training.
Yeah, that's quite interesting that you've said that. And I never thought about that before, to be honest, because whatever establishments I've worked for, I've never done any menopause training.
Yeah.
And I suppose that could be something quite good that companies kind of start bringing in.
Yeah. I mean, some are doing it. It's just, needs to be a lot more. But I mean, the ones I've done, it's really interesting. When I've done talks, that I usually follow someone who's talking about mental health, and the room's usually full for that. You bring menopause, it's like rats off a sinking ship. all the young women all walk out, and it's like, really, you should be the ones that stay.
Yes. But it is. The young woman should be sitting, and the young men should also be sitting, because that's something that they're going to have to deal with if they do find themselves in a relationship later on.
Well, the chances are they've got a sister, they've got a mother, they've got colleagues that'll be female. So it does affect everybody.
Exactly. And interestingly enough, growing up, my mum, I never heard anything come out of my mum's mouth with what she was going through. So I didn't even know that she was going through. And maybe this is our fault, not our fault, but maybe if we as women get more vocal when we are the woman in the house, and if we've got sons or brothers or who the men around us going like, this is what I'm going through. This is
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
know, this is what I've been given the advice on. This is how I'm feeling right now. This is the
Yeah.
changes that are going through my body. And in that way, there's more education and more awareness.
Yeah.
So it's not looked upon and frowned upon as, oh, she's going through menopause. She's a dragon at the moment. Instead of
Yeah.
like offering a bit more of empathy and sympathy to
Yeah.
women who have to go through this difficult time.
Yeah, I remember Lauren telling us when we were doing our training, she does talks to, huge audiences. And she said she was doing one talk before the pandemic, and there was a couple of, probably in the 20s, a brother and sister. And she said when she was talking, she saw them, and she said they were sat there in tears. And she went and spoke to them after, and she said they left home as teenagers because they thought their mother hated them. And then realised it was menopause was why she was like she was, and it wasn't the fact that she'd hated them.
That's quite sad. But like you say, I think because a lot of the time women don't know that what they are going through, and the GPs don't know what they're going through also, and nobody kind of knows, because there's just so many things that could be going wrong with you, so they just kind of generalizing altogether. But I suppose the more awareness that, and now that it could be looked on, exploring that it could be an option, whereas before it wasn't explored as an option.
Yeah. And I think, if a woman is more aware of what potentially can happen, then better able to advocate for themselves when they go to the GPs, and stand up and go, I am not depressed. I think I'm menopausal. I want to sort it out. I want to speak to somebody that knows what they're talking about. I want to speak to a GP who's been trained. I always advise the employees that I deal with this, and if you're going to the GP, ask to speak to a GP who's got an interest in women's health or is trained in menopause. At least then you're not starting off on the back foot, and being told it was just your hormones, love.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is the thing, right? Down to personal experience and also knowing what you go through. I do find it, this could be a bit controversial, I do find it that you as a woman, you go to a male doctor, and just because you've studied something, you don't know what it feels like. You might, because you've read something out of a textbook and have gone, okay, this is the basic knowledge around it. You don't have a clue with what is going on in the body, yet you give an advice on it, which sometimes I'm a little bit like, you need to have like a little bit of experience to actually know what you're trying to dish out sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
Yeah. And as a man, I don't think
if all men went through menopause, I think it would be in a totally different situation.
Well, do they go through their own menopause, or we just don't know about it? This whole man flu. I'm not sure about this whole man flu thing either.
Yeah, I mean, men, there is something called andropause, but that is sort of male menopause. But the majority of time, that is due to lifestyle. That is, they're drinking too much, they're smoking too much, they're too stressed, they're not exercising, then they're eating a bad diet. A small percentage of men will lose their testosterone. The testosterone levels will drop. But that's not every man.
Sure.
And if that happens, they would need to go and see an endocrinologist. Can't say the word. A doctor that looks over the endocrine system to get testosterone, HRT. But it's not every man. Usually, so they sort out their lifestyle factors, they will have an improvement.
And also, I think, like you say, bringing it into the workplace, and having like the senior people of the company, understanding, because a lot of the time as women, if you need to take some time off, it's just like, it looks upon like a bit of an irritation instead of being supportive to what the person's going through, especially the woman.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we're losing 1 in 10 women out of the workforce because of menopause symptoms, which is a huge number. And they're usually the most experienced people, the employees, and companies are losing them. And rather than thinking about it and thinking, putting in some reasonable adjustments, you could keep that employee in work. you know, and not lose that experience just for the fact that, but they're walking out. I think 1 in 4 consider leaving, and 1 in 10 actually do leave.
Which is quite sad, really.
Yeah. And I think women are the fastest growing economic group in the country.
Mm.
But but it's slowly, this slow change.
And that's just it.
The next, hopefully, like I said, the next generation hopefully will have a much better experience.
So if there are any women out there that are going through and are struggling at the moment, where can they find you, Julie?
They can find me. I'm on Facebook. I'm called Julie Menopause Coach. That is my page, and I've got a Facebook group as well that's called the Menopause Suite, Navigating the Change with Ease. And in that, I've started doing some weekly lives. We've just had, we had Annabelle talking about her menopause at 13. We've just done one this week on weight gain and menopause with a health coach from the US that I know. I've got another one booked in another couple of weeks that we're looking at balancing your hormones naturally with another health coach, and I've got one I've recorded with another health coach on mood and menopause. So looking at the digestive impact on menopause and how you can improve it and stuff like that. So I'm getting loads of sort of coaches I know from different areas to come in and talk about their sort of specific area in relation to menopause. There's a load of freebies. I'm putting resources in there, and also putting sort of updates on my programs as well.
Sounds fantastic. I suppose that's another thing, is the weight gain also around it, which probably contributes.
Again, hormone related.
Yeah.
But and I'm looking at I'm trying to get some free training organised as well, hopefully to run that in May, sort of 3 hour, probably over 3 days, sort of to open, bring awareness about menopause to the masses. And then sort of offering discounts on the programs as well.
Fantastic. Sounds great. Oh, thank you so much, Julie, for joining me today.
It's an absolute pleasure, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
No, not at all. So if anybody's out there, please contact Julie, because you don't have to be on your own struggling through a really, really difficult time. So contact her. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with me, Julie. And I've learned something today also. So
thank you. No, it's been a pleasure here. And like you said, they're not on that. You'd have to remember they're not on their own, which is somehow people feel.
Exactly that. Thanks so much. Take care.
No problem. Cheers. Bye.